The noise within. I used to be lost in the noise of my own existence, not the noise of the streets or the hum of the city, but the deafening roar of a mind that never learned how to shut up. I was productive, yet I was empty. I was connected, yet I felt completely alone. Until I stood before this waterfall. Look at it. It's powerful, it's chaotic, it's loud. But if you look closer, at the very center of the falling water, there is a point of absolute stability. The water changes every millisecond, but the form stays still. We've been told that to be someone, we have to keep moving. We've turned busyness into a status symbol. But what if our greatest strength doesn't come from the hustle? What if the most radical thing you can do in this chaotic world is simply to be still? The modern sickness of more. The Western world is built on the pursuit of more. More data, more speed, more achievement. We are the first generation in human history that has effectively deleted boredom from our lives. The moment there is a gap, a line at the grocery store, a red light, a quiet morning, we fill it with a screen. But here's the cost. When you fill every gap, you lose the ability to hear your own soul. Blaise Pascal, the great French philosopher, once wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." He said that in the 1600s. Imagine what he would say today. We are terrified of the silence because, in the silence, the things we've been running from finally catch up. Our anxieties, our regrets, the haunting question of, is this all there is? Stillness isn't just about relaxation, it's an act of courage. It's a confrontation with yourself. Seneca and the art of inner citadel. Let's talk about Seneca, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in Rome. He lived in the middle of a literal empire of noise, political intrigue, luxury, and chaos. Seneca practiced something he called the inner citadel. He believed that a man should be able to find peace even if the world around him is burning. He famously said, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." There's a story about him traveling through the noisy streets of Rome. Instead of complaining about the clatter of wagons or the shouting of merchants, he used the noise as a whetstone for his mind. He realized that if his inner world was still, the outer world couldn't touch him. Stillness is your armor. When your mind is a lake, a pebble creates a ripple, and you see it clearly. But when your mind is a storm, you won't even notice the boulder being thrown in. Diogenes and the luxury of nothing. Then there's Diogenes, the man who lived in a tub. When Alexander the Great, the man who owned the world, met Diogenes, he asked, "What can I do for you?" Diogenes, sitting in the sun, looked up and said, "Yes, stand out of my sunlight." Alexander was shocked. He had everything, yet he was restless, always needing to conquer the next city. Diogenes had nothing, yet he had the one thing Alexander couldn't buy: stillness. We think we need to attain peace. We think if we get the right job, the right partner, the right house, then, and only then, will we be still. Diogenes reminds us that stillness isn't something you get. It's something you stop interfering with. It's the baseline of your being. The science of the quiet brain. There is a term in neuroscience called the default mode network. It's the part of our brain that's active when we aren't doing anything specific. It's where creativity lives. It's where we consolidate our identity. In our world, we are killing this network. We are constantly in task-positive mode. We are solving problems, responding to emails, reacting. When you sit by a stream like this one and you truly watch the water, without trying to fix anything or plan anything, your brain begins to recalibrate. This isn't wasting time. This is the only time your brain actually has to repair itself. Stillness is the soil where wisdom grows. You cannot grow a forest in a hurricane. Marcus Aurelius, retreating inward. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, was the busiest man on earth. He was leading armies, managing a plague, and dealing with a crumbling empire. In his private journals, which we now call meditations, he wrote to himself, People try to get away from it all, to the country, to the beach, to the mountains. But this is entirely man-made, because you can get away from it all at any time by going within. He called it the inward retreat. You don't need a plane ticket to the Himalayas. You don't need a 10-day silent retreat. You need to find the 3 minutes between your meetings. You need to find the space between your breaths. If the Emperor of Rome could find a quiet place in the middle of a war, you can find it in the middle of your commute. How to practice the unlearning. So, how do we do it? In a world that profits from our distraction, how do we reclaim our stillness? It starts with unlearning. Unlearn the idea that your worth is tied to your output. Unlearn the fear of being left behind. Try this. Tomorrow morning, for just 5 minutes, don't touch your phone. Sit with your coffee. Watch the light change on the wall. Don't try to think deep thoughts. Just witness. You'll feel an itch. You'll feel a desperate urge to check your notifications. That itch? That's the addiction to noise. Stay with it. Let it pass. On the other side of that itch is your life. The Great Return. I started this journey lost in the noise. I thought stillness was a luxury for the old or the idle. I was wrong. Stillness is the only way to see the truth. When the water is still, you see the reflection of the sky. When the mind is still, you see yourself. Not the version of you that society wants, but the version of you that simply is. The waterfall is still rushing. The world is still turning. The noise isn't going anywhere. But you can choose to be the rock in the center of the flow. Go within. The silence is waiting for you, and it has a lot to say.